Tyler Knox wasn't used to surprises, especially not from Ghost. They'd worked together for almost 5 years, routine patrols, courthouse security, the occasional bomb threat that turned out to be a forgotten gym bag. Tyler used to joke, "If Ghost ever barks in this place, it'll be the most excitement we've had in years." But that morning shattered the routine. It started normal enough. Tyler parked his cruiser in the staff lot. Ghost, a sleek black German shepherd, leapt out, tail wagging, eyes sharp. He always scanned the lot first, habit drilled deep. They passed the metal detectors, nodded to the bailiffs, and headed down the tiled hallway like always. Then they reached courtroom 3B. Ghost froze, right at the threshold. His ears twitched, his tail stiffened, his entire body turned into a statue. Tyler tugged gently on the leash. "Come on, buddy, let's go." Nothing. Then, without warning, Ghost lunged. Not in aggression, just raw instinct. He pulled Tyler clean off his feet, barreled through the half-open doors, and shot straight toward the judge's bench. The courtroom was packed. Jury seated, prosecution mid-sentence. Everyone jerked around at the sound of claws scrambling across tile. "Ghost! Stop!" Tyler shouted, chasing after him. Ghost didn't stop. He skidded to a halt just in front of the judge's bench, teeth bared, low growl rumbling from his chest. He stood stiff, blocking the judge's path like a guard dog protecting a sleeping child. Laughter rippled through the room. "Guess he objects," someone chuckled. The judge, an older man with tired eyes, stood slowly. "Officer Knox, is your dog all right?" Tyler grabbed the leash, heart pounding. I don't know, Your Honor. He's never done this before." Ghost didn't move. He stayed locked in place, eyes locked on a small wooden vent beneath the bench. It was barely noticeable, a little grate near the floor, and then his growl deepened. Tyler had felt Ghost growl before, but this wasn't warning, it was something else. A message. "Ghost?" Tyler whispered, kneeling beside him. "What is it, boy?" The room had gone dead silent. "Something's not right," Tyler said aloud. The judge stepped back. "Do what you need to do, officer." Tyler nodded and unclipped the lead from Ghost's collar. "Go on," he said softly. Ghost crouched low, nose to the floor. He sniffed once, then again. Then, he barked. Sharp, urgent. 1 bark. 2. Pause. 3. Tyler's blood ran cold. That was the signal for explosives. "Everyone out now," Tyler roared. Panic erupted. The bailiffs kicked open doors. Jurors screamed. People shoved past each other to escape. But Ghost stayed put, guarding the vent, barking in his coded rhythm. Bomb squad arrived 12 minutes later. They found a small device, homemade, crudely wired, stuffed inside the vent where no one would have thought to look. It wouldn't have leveled the building, but it could have hurt or killed everyone in that courtroom. As the squad wheeled the device out, the lead tech turned to Tyler and shook his head. "He found that? Through the wall." Tyler nodded, still shaken. "He's never done anything like that before." Ghost stood beside him, panting like it was just another day. Later, in the break room, Tyler knelt down and rubbed Ghost behind the ears. "What made you do that, huh? You smelled it somehow." Ghost leaned in, pressing his forehead to Tyler's chest. Tyler's voice cracked. "You saved them. You saved all of them." Deputy Hall stepped in with a grin. "You sure your pup ain't psychic?" Tyler gave a weak laugh. "He's just paying attention. More than the rest of us." By afternoon, the story had already hit local news. Hero K9 halts courtroom bombing, they called it. But Tyler knew the truth. Ghost didn't do it for glory. Or for news clips. He did it because something felt wrong. Because instincts don't lie. Because even on the quietest days, a good dog never stops listening. That night, Tyler tossed a thick steak on the grill and let Ghost eat it right off a plate. "You earned it, partner." Ghost wagged his tail once, slow and proud. Then his ears perked again, just for a second, as if something else was coming. Something bigger, something darker. But for now, all Tyler could do was whisper, "Good boy." Tyler didn't want to believe it either. But Ghost kept going back. again and again, to that same narrow patch of floor beneath the judge's bench. Every morning, every break, every time the courtroom emptied, Ghost would sit there, nose pressed low, paw scratching softly, not frantic, not playful, almost reverent, like he was listening for something no one else could hear. Tyler knelt beside him one afternoon. "What are you trying to show me, huh?" Ghost looked up, ears twitching, then resumed pawing at the old wood paneling. That's when Tyler finally took a flashlight and got on his belly, ignoring the weird looks from a couple of clerks passing by. The scratches were subtle, but they were there. 3 sets, one shallow and scattered, the other deeper, angled upward, like someone had reached from inside the wall. The final set looked fresher, much fresher. He ran his finger along them, chills crawling up his spine. "This isn't from furniture," he muttered. Just then, the janitor walked in, pushing his mop bucket. "You still poking around down there?" Tyler sat up. "You said this was from old furniture?" The man shrugged. "Yeah. Years ago, we moved the old podium. Thing had jagged legs, scratched up half the floor. Judge didn't want to pay for refinishing." Tyler pointed at the deepest marks. "Furniture doesn't scratch up the wall from inside a vent." The janitor frowned, looked closer, then huffed. "You lawmen always looking for trouble. You got your bomb. Ain't that enough excitement for 1 month?" Tyler didn't answer, because Ghost was growling again. Not loud, barely audible, but his nose was pressed into the seam between the paneling and floor, and his tail was still. "Ghost?" Tyler whispered. "You smell something?" Ghost's body tensed. Tyler knocked gently on the wall. Hollow. Too hollow. After the janitor left, Tyler went back with a screwdriver. He glanced around, heart thudding, then loosened one of the corner panels just enough to peek inside. The space behind it wasn't just a vent. It was a hidden crawl space. Long, narrow, dusty, and in the dim beam of his flashlight, he saw something that stopped his breath. A strip of blue cloth, faded, torn, snagged on a nail, and next to it something even worse. Fingernail marks, tiny ones, dragged along the wooden beam. "Ghost," Tyler said slowly. "What the hell did we just find?" The next morning, Tyler requested court records for Courtroom 3B, anything unusual in the last decade. The clerk raised an eyebrow but gave him a stack. Tyler spent hours flipping through files, and halfway down the second folder, he found it. Case #3842J. State versus Harlan Drew. Missing witness. 15-year-old girl. Supposed to testify against a local businessman accused of trafficking. Last seen entering the courthouse. Never seen again. The trial was dropped for lack of evidence. Ghost barked once, sharp, from across the room. Tyler looked up. The dog was standing by the courtroom doors again, staring through the glass. "Did they ever check security footage?" Tyler asked aloud, flipping the file over. There was a note. "Footage corrupted, hard drive failure. No backup available." His jaw clenched. They'd buried it. Someone had buried the whole thing. Ghost pressed against his leg, eyes locked on him. "You want me to dig?" Tyler murmured. "You want me to find her?" That night, Tyler couldn't sleep. He sat in the kitchen, staring at the court file, Ghost lying quietly at his feet. "They knew," he whispered. "Someone knew she was coming. They knew how to get her out without being seen." Ghost's ears perked. "You're telling me she didn't run? She was taken, right from under our noses." Ghost let out a soft whine. Tyler looked at him. "You think she's still down there?" There was no answer, just silence. But Ghost stood and walked to the door, staring, waiting, and that was all the answer Tyler needed. He grabbed his keys. "Let's go, partner." Because if Ghost was right, and he usually was, this case wasn't closed. It had never even started. Tyler hadn't planned to stop. He and Ghost were just doing their usual late evening loop around the courthouse, the one they always did to settle his partner's nerves after long shifts. But the second he passed the bulletin board near the side gate, something tugged at him, hard, a soft flap, A creak of old staples pulling loose in the wind. That's when he saw it. The flyer was barely holding on, edges curled and yellowed, but the photo was still clear. A little girl, freckles, straight brown hair, pink hoodie. Emma Harper, age 10. Missing since July 3rd. 2 years ago. Tyler stood there, staring at her face, like something inside him had turned to stone. Ghost stopped beside him and let out a low whine. Then he stepped forward, nose brushing the paper. He sniffed once, twice, then let out a short bark and looked up at Tyler, ears high, tail stiff. "You recognize that?" Tyler whispered. Ghost barked again. Then he turned fast and began sniffing the ground with purpose. Nose low, head swiveling like he was tracking something invisible. Something old. Tyler's chest tightened. No, buddy, that was 2 years ago. She's long gone." But Ghost wouldn't stop. He circled the post, then darted toward the alley that ran along the side of the courthouse. Tyler followed, heart pounding. The alley was empty, dark. Trash bins lined the wall. Ghost sniffed along the brick, then stopped dead. He pawed at a storm drain. "Ghost?" Tyler called, walking over. "You're chasing ghosts, man." But when he got close, he saw it, scratched into the side of the drain cover. Faint, barely legible under rust and grime. 3 letters each. "Emma Harper," Tyler breathed. Ghost whined again. Tyler dropped to one knee. "You're telling me she was here?" Ghost looked up, eyes wide, tail flicking. Tyler ran a hand over the drain cover. It was bolted tight, locked, but the scratches were real. He looked around. "This runs under the courthouse." Ghost sat, gaze fixed on the grate. And suddenly, all those scratch marks in Courtroom 3B, they didn't feel like just evidence anymore. They felt like echoes. That night, Tyler pulled every file he could find on Emma Harper. She'd vanished on her way to a youth testimony workshop, meant to help kids prepare to speak in court. Last seen near the courthouse. Cameras malfunctioned. No leads. Case went cold. Another girl. Gone without a trace. Tyler stared at the screen, knuckles white. "Not again," he muttered. Ghost was lying by the door, but his head lifted slowly, like he'd heard something, or felt it. Tyler grabbed his coat. "Come on. We're not letting this one disappear too." He drove to the station, filed a fake request for an old maintenance report, and copied the storm drain maps. By midnight, he and Ghost were standing over the grate again, flashlights in hand. "According to this," Tyler whispered, pointing to the blueprints, "these tunnels connect to the crawl space under 3B. Ghost barked once. Short, sharp. "I know, boy. I feel it too." They didn't try to open the drain that night. Tyler knew better. If someone had gone through this much trouble to hide that space, they were watching. He needed proof, the kind that couldn't be erased. Next morning, Tyler filed a motion to temporarily close Courtroom 3B for structural safety concerns. He knew the judge well enough to swing it. A day or two, enough time to plan. Meanwhile, Ghost kept returning to that same spot by the bench. Still sniffing, still silent. And then something new happened. He lay down, right over the scratches, and didn't move. Tyler knelt next to him, voice barely a whisper. "She was here, wasn't she?" Ghost didn't bark, didn't growl, just stared at the vent. That's when Tyler noticed something tucked behind one of the floorboards. Something so small, it could have been missed 100 times. He reached in carefully and pulled out a bracelet. Pink plastic beads. Spelled out, Emma. Tyler felt the world tilt sideways. Ghost let out a sound Tyler had never heard before. A kind of soft, aching whimper, like he was grieving, like he'd been waiting for someone to find it. Tyler swallowed hard, throat tight. "We found her, Ghost. We found a piece of her." He held the bracelet in his palm, mind racing. If they found this, what else was hidden below? Tyler couldn't shake it. The bracelet was still in his glove compartment. Pink beads spelling out EMMA, the plastic worn smooth like it had been held too tight for too long. He'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, mind racing. Ghost curled up at the foot of his bed but wide awake. Every time Tyler looked over, Ghost was watching the door, ears twitching. By morning, Tyler stopped wondering. He knew something had happened in that courtroom, and somebody still didn't want it found. He started small, quiet questions with people who wouldn't think much of it. First, the clerk. She was younger, sharp-eyed, the kind who saw everything but kept her mouth shut unless asked. Tyler caught her near the coffee station. "You ever hear anything strange at night?" he asked casually. She paused. "Like what?" "I don't know. Sounds. Voices. Anything unusual." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Sometimes, after hours, when the halls are empty, it sounds like someone crying." "Crying?" She nodded. "Not loud, just soft, like a girl. Always near 3B. Tyler felt his stomach knot. "You report it?" "Once. They said it was the pipes. Told me not to stay late if it freaked me out." He nodded, thanked her, and walked away, faster than he meant to. Next was the night shift security guard. Old-timer, half-retired. Mostly just drank coffee and wandered the halls at night with a flashlight that barely worked. Tyler caught him behind the monitors. "Hey, Frank, ever find that back service door unlocked?" Frank blinked, surprised. "How'd you know?" "Just a hunch." Frank scratched his chin. "Couple months back. Door by the generator was wide open. Thought maybe a janitor forgot to shut it." Tyler leaned in. "You checked the cameras?" Frank sighed. "Didn't bother. Door was closed the next day. Figured if someone had gotten in, we'd know." Tyler didn't say anything, just nodded and walked out. But everything was adding up. The crying, the door, the bracelet, the scratches in the vent. This wasn't a random disappearance. This was planned. And whoever did it had keys. That night, Tyler tried to take Ghost home. They made it to the cruiser, engine running. But Ghost wouldn't get in. He stood outside the car, facing the courthouse steps, body rigid. Then, without warning, he walked back to the front doors and lay down right in front of courtroom 3B. "Ghost?" Tyler sighed, getting out. "It's late. Come on." Ghost didn't move. Not an inch. Tyler stood over him, arms crossed. "You're not gonna let this go, are you?" Ghost looked up, and for a moment Tyler swore he saw something behind those eyes. A plea. "Keep going." Tyler sat beside him, resting his back against the wall. The hallway was cold, empty, just echoes of silence and the hum of distant fluorescent lights. Hours passed. Ghost stayed alert, ears high, head lifted, but he didn't bark. He didn't growl, just listened. And then, just after 2 a.m., he stood up. "Ghost," Tyler whispered. The dog pressed his nose to the base of the door, whined, then pawed it once. Tyler stood, every muscle tensed. He pulled out his key ring and unlocked the door. The courtroom was pitch dark. Ghost entered first, slow and careful. Tyler followed, flashlight sweeping the room. Empty benches, silent jury box, same old shadows. Then Ghost stopped, at the judge's bench, again. But this time he didn't growl. He sat, perfectly still, and stared at the vent. Tyler stepped closer. "What now, buddy?" Ghost looked up at him, then back to the wall. Tyler got down and reached behind the paneling, where he'd found the bracelet. His fingers brushed something else. Paper. He pulled it out slowly. A photograph. Faded. Creased. Emma. Standing in the courthouse lobby. Same pink hoodie. Smiling. Someone had taken it from inside this building. Tyler's hands trembled. This was here the whole time? He looked at Ghost, who had lain down again, eyes on the door like he was guarding something invisible. This wasn't just a hunch anymore. This was evidence. Proof that Emma had been inside this building after she was declared missing. Tyler slid the photo into a folder, locked it in his bag, and looked around one last time. Everything felt different now. He wasn't chasing rumors. He was chasing truth. And Ghost? Ghost had known all along. The room was still, too still. Tyler stood frozen, crouched over the trapdoor, the silence pressing down like a weight. His flashlight beam hovered over the teddy bear lying just below the opening. It didn't make sense. Everything else was coated in dust and age, But the bear, it looked new. Not weeks old, days. He reached down with slow, steady hands and picked it up. Soft, warm, almost like it had just been hugged. Ghost let out another whine, soft and broken, and nudged the bear gently with his nose. Tyler swallowed hard. Someone's been down there, Ghost. The bear's fur was gray, with a blue bow. Its left ear was stitched with red thread, like it had been torn and repaired with care. He turned it over. On the paw, written in faded marker, M&M. Tyler's voice cracked. Emma and her little brother. She told the caseworker they shared one bear. He looked down at the dark crawl space, stomach tightening. She left this on purpose. Ghost paced near the bench, circling, ears up and alert. Tyler set the bear carefully into his backpack, zipped it tight, and lowered himself through the opening. The air hit him like a wave, musty, damp, but not dead. Smelled lived in, like old blankets and mold, like someone had been surviving, not hiding. Ghost didn't hesitate. He jumped in right behind him, landing quietly beside Tyler. The space was barely tall enough to crouch in. Wood beams above, packed dirt below. The flashlight revealed a narrow passage stretching beneath the courtroom. Every few feet, old wiring ran along the wall, long forgotten. They moved slowly, Tyler duck-walking, Ghost slinking ahead. After 20 feet, the space widened slightly into what looked like an old utility chamber, maybe once a storage crawlway. Someone had placed broken tiles along the dirt to form a sort of path. And in the far corner, a blanket, folded, a water bottle, a tin of crackers. Tyler felt his throat tighten. She was here, he whispered. She lived down here. Ghost nosed the blanket, then growled softly. Not in warning, but grief. Tyler scanned the small space. Crayon marks on the wall, a cracked mirror, and a drawing, taped to the wooden beam, faded but still visible. It showed two stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands, both smiling. Tyler reached up, gently pulling it down. She was waiting, he murmured, waiting for someone to find her. Then something shifted behind them. A faint sound. Click. Tyler turned fast. Flashlight beam snapped toward the crawlspace opening. Empty. But he knew what he'd heard. A door. Above them. Closing. He looked at Ghost. We're not alone. Ghost's body stiffened. He faced the tunnel they came through, ears pinned back, low growl rumbling. Tyler flicked off the flashlight and crouched low. The space sank into black. Footsteps. Muffled. Distant. Above. Whoever was there. They knew. Tyler whispered. We need to get out. Now. But Ghost didn't move. He was staring at another corner of the crawlspace. A vent in the wall, half pried open. Tyler crawled over, peered inside. It connected to the storm drains, the same ones Ghost had sniffed days ago. The same path Emma may have used. Come on, he breathed, unfastening the grate. He pushed his bag in first, then followed. The tunnel was narrow, slimy, but just big enough. Ghost slid in behind him, quiet as breath. They crawled for what felt like forever. Then finally fresh air. Tyler burst out of the storm drain behind the courthouse and collapsed onto the grass, gasping. Ghost scrambled out next to him, nose high, eyes darting. No one in sight, but the courtroom lights were on. And Tyler knew exactly what that meant. Someone had been watching, listening, waiting for him to get close. Ghost trotted over to his side and nudged the backpack. Tyler unzipped it and pulled out the teddy bear. We're not giving this back, he whispered. Not until she's safe. Ghost let out a soft bark. Tyler looked up at the courthouse. Whatever was going on inside that building, it wasn't over. It was just beginning. Tyler stood stiffly as his supervisor flipped through the report, barely glancing at the photos. Emma's bracelet, the makeshift bed, the drawing on the beam. All of it. Then came the sigh. Knox, this isn't evidence, the captain said, rubbing his temples. This is sentiment. It's real, Tyler insisted. A 10-year-old girl vanished inside this courthouse. We found her bracelet, her drawing, her bear. There's no sign of foul play, the captain cut in. No blood, no body, no witness. Just a bunch of dusty junk under a courtroom. Tyler clenched his jaw. That dusty junk belonged to a child. She was here, and someone was keeping her hidden. The captain leaned back. Don't turn this into a circus, Knox. Let it go. Tyler didn't answer. He just nodded, collected his folder, and walked out, pulse hammering in his ears. Ghost was waiting in the cruiser, head on the armrest. When Tyler opened the door, Ghost lifted his head, eyes sharp. Tyler dropped the file onto the passenger seat. They won't listen. Ghost blinked once. Calm, certain. Tyler started the engine. Then we do it our way. That night, the courthouse was dark. Tyler used his personal keycard, quietly bypassing the front. No cameras down here. He'd made sure of it. Ghost walked ahead, silent as shadow. They didn't go through the bench this time. They went straight to the utility crawlspace, through the storm drain entrance in the alley. It was faster. They entered the tunnel without a sound. Ghost led the way, nose twitching, body low. The flashlight cast long shadows on the dirt walls. The air was cooler tonight. Still, like the place was holding its breath. The little corner room was just how they'd left it. Blanket folded, crumbs from the cracker tins still scattered on the ground. But then Ghost froze. He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He stepped forward, pawed gently at the wall, then turned to Tyler with wide, alert eyes. What is it? Tyler whispered. Ghost nosed a crack in the beam. Something shiny. Tyler reached out, hands shaking, and tugged it loose. A bracelet, gold chain, small, engraved with tiny letters on the inside. Emma. His heart stopped. It wasn't the same plastic one from the poster photos. This was newer, fancier, like a gift from someone who wanted her to stay quiet. Tyler turned it over. On the clasp, he saw something else. A fingerprint, smudged, but visible. His breath caught. She was down here recently. Ghost whined low. Tyler looked at him. You were right again. He sat in the dirt, staring at the bracelet. This wasn't just a missing kid case anymore. This was active. Someone had kept her here, and someone had brought her something, which meant she wasn't alone, he whispered. The walls felt tighter now, the air heavier. Every sound echoed a little too loud. Tyler stood, flashlight darting around. Then he noticed something. Near the drawing, tiny fresh footprints in the dirt. Lighter than his own. Recent. They weren't there last time. Ghost sniffed them once, then looked up sharply, alert. She's alive, Tyler said, voice hollow. She's still here. His mind raced. If Emma had been brought back, or never left, someone was keeping her close. Maybe in the basement. Maybe hidden in another vent or tunnel. And they had access. Authority. Confidence. Who? The janitor? The judge? Someone else? Ghost turned toward the exit, ears pinned back. They weren't alone. Tyler snapped off the flashlight. Footsteps, soft but real, echoed above. He held his breath. 1 second, 2. Silence again. But he knew what that meant. Someone was checking the courtroom. Maybe they'd seen the storm grate open. Maybe they'd seen the report on the captain's desk. Tyler clutched the bracelet tight. This had gone too far to stop now. He grabbed a clean evidence bag from his backpack, sealed the bracelet, and tucked it safely away. Then he looked at Ghost. Time to move. They backed out of the tunnel, retraced their steps, and emerged behind the courthouse. Tyler kept to the shadows, ducking behind a hedge as a light flicked on in the records office. He didn't need more proof. He needed a plan. He scratched behind Ghost's ears. We're close, partner. I can feel it. Ghost leaned into him, body warm and solid. Tyler looked up at the courthouse one last time. Somewhere inside that building, a little girl was waiting, and Tyler Knox wasn't going to stop until he brought her home. The crawl space opened wider the deeper they went. At first, it was just dirt and pipes, the forgotten guts of the courthouse. But Ghost kept going, nose to the ground, weaving between beams and shadows, until they reached a corner Tyler had never seen before. A rotted wooden beam blocked the way. Tyler pried it loose with a grunt, dust choking the air. Behind it, a wall, bricked over, sloppy, rushed, like someone had sealed it in a hurry. Ghost pawed at it, low growl rising in his throat. Tyler's chest tightened. "You sure about this?" Ghost didn't flinch. Tyler ran his hand over the wall. The mortar crumbled under his fingers. With his flashlight wedged between two pipes, he took a crowbar from his bag and began chipping. Minutes passed. Sweat ran down his neck. His arms ached. Then crack. The wall gave way. A narrow gap appeared. Tyler shoved through, shoulders scraping rough edges. Ghost followed instantly. What they stepped into wasn't part of any blueprint Tyler had seen. A sealed-off room, 10 by 12 feet. Low ceiling. The air was thick, old, damp, but not stale. Someone had been here. The flashlight beam swept across the floor. A faded blanket, candy wrappers, a cracked handheld mirror, and in the far corner a single tiny shoe. Ghost moved carefully, sniffing every object with sharp precision. When he reached the shoe, he stopped, then lay beside it, head resting on the ground, tail completely still. Tyler stepped forward and picked it up gently. It was small, pink, the same brand Emma's mother had mentioned in the original missing persons file. His voice was barely a whisper. She was living here. The mirror caught his eye next. He lifted it slowly, angling it toward the light. On the back was something faint, scratched in with a nail or key. "I'm still here." The words nearly knocked the wind out of him. He sank onto the dirt floor, heart pounding. Who had done this? Who sealed this room? It wasn't just neglect. It was intentional. They didn't want her found. Not by police. Not by family. No one. Ghost pressed against his side. Tyler looked down. "I don't think she was just hiding," he said softly. "I think someone kept her here." He scanned the walls. No windows. No vent. Only a small gap near the ceiling. Just enough to slide in food. Maybe whisper through. Ghost sniffed toward it. Then Tyler noticed something else. A faded box of crayons. Red, green, blue, yellow. He opened the lid. Inside was a drawing. A sun. A house. 2 stick figures. One tall, one small. The same image from the crawlspace. She'd drawn it again. Tyler stared, blinking back heat behind his eyes. She tried to remember what the outside looked like, what home looked like, but she never drew more than 2 people. Not a mom, not a dad, just the tall figure, and her. "Someone kept her down here," Tyler repeated, voice harder now. "But they weren't hurting her." Ghost tilted his head. "They gave her food, blankets, things to play with, like they were pretending to care. The shoe, the candy, the second drawing. It didn't feel like torture. Felt like possession. Whoever it was, whoever sealed this place, they thought she belonged to them." Tyler stood slowly, heart pounding harder with each breath. This wasn't just a forgotten room. It was a prison made to look like comfort. And someone in the courthouse, someone with keys, with time, with access, had turned it into a secret home for a stolen child. Ghost barked once, sharply. Tyler spun around. Footsteps. Above. Someone was walking in the courtroom again. No doubt now. They were being watched. "We need to get out," Tyler whispered, grabbing the shoe and the drawing. "But we're not done." Ghost was waiting in the cruiser, head on the armrest. When Tyler opened the door, Ghost lifted his head, eyes sharp. Tyler dropped the file onto the passenger seat. "They won't listen." Ghost blinked once. Calm, certain. Tyler started the engine. "Then we do it our way." That night, the courthouse was dark. Tyler used his personal keycard, quietly bypassing the front. No cameras down here. He'd made sure of it. Ghost walked ahead, silent as shadow. They didn't go through the bench this time. They went straight to the utility crawlspace, through the storm drain entrance in the alley. It was faster. They entered the tunnel without a sound. Ghost led the way, nose twitching, body low. The flashlight cast long shadows on the dirt walls. The air was cooler tonight, still, like the place was holding its breath. The little corner room was just how they'd left it. Blanket folded, crumbs from the cracker tins still scattered on the ground. But then Ghost froze. He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He stepped forward, pawed gently at the wall, then turned to Tyler with wide, alert eyes. "What is it?" Tyler whispered. Ghost nosed a crack in the beam. Something shiny. Tyler reached out, hands shaking, and tugged it loose. A bracelet, gold chain, small, engraved with tiny letters on the inside. Emma. His heart stopped. It wasn't the same plastic one from the poster photos. This was newer, fancier, like a gift from someone who wanted her to stay quiet. Tyler turned it over. On the clasp, he saw something else. A fingerprint, smudged, but visible. His breath caught. "She was down here recently." Ghost whined low. Tyler looked at him. "You were right again." He sat in the dirt, staring at the bracelet. This wasn't just a missing kid case anymore. This was active. Someone had kept her here, and someone had brought her something, which meant she wasn't alone, he whispered. The walls felt tighter now, the air heavier. Every sound echoed a little too loud. Tyler stood, flashlight darting around. Then he noticed something. Near the drawing, tiny fresh footprints in the dirt. Lighter than his own. Recent. They weren't there last time. Ghost sniffed them once, then looked up sharply, alert. "She's alive," Tyler said, voice hollow. "She's still here." His mind raced. If Emma had been brought back, or never left, someone was keeping her close. Maybe in the basement, maybe hidden in another vent or tunnel. And they had access, authority, confidence. Who? The janitor? The judge? Someone else? Ghost turned toward the exit, ears pinned back. They weren't alone. Tyler snapped off the flashlight. Footsteps, soft but real, echoed above. He held his breath. 1 second, 2. Silence again. But he knew what that meant. Someone was checking the courtroom. Maybe they'd seen the storm grate open. Maybe they'd seen the report on the captain's desk. Tyler clutched the bracelet tight. This had gone too far to stop now. He grabbed a clean evidence bag from his backpack, sealed the bracelet, and tucked it safely away. Then he looked at Ghost. Time to move. They backed out of the tunnel, retraced their steps, and emerged behind the courthouse. Tyler kept to the shadows, ducking behind a hedge as a light flicked on in the records office. He didn't need more proof. He needed a plan. He scratched behind Ghost's ears. "We're close, partner. I can feel it." Ghost leaned into him, body warm and solid. Tyler looked up at the courthouse one last time. Somewhere inside that building, a little girl was waiting, and Tyler Knox wasn't going to stop until he brought her home. The crawl space opened wider the deeper they went. At first, it was just dirt and pipes, the forgotten guts of the courthouse. But Ghost kept going, nose to the ground, weaving between beams and shadows, until they reached a corner Tyler had never seen before. A rotted wooden beam blocked the way. Tyler pried it loose with a grunt, dust choking the air. Behind it, a wall, bricked over, sloppy, rushed, like someone had sealed it in a hurry. Ghost pawed at it, low growl rising in his throat. Tyler's chest tightened. "You sure about this?" Ghost didn't flinch. Tyler ran his hand over the wall. The mortar crumbled under his fingers. With his flashlight wedged between two pipes, he took a crowbar from his bag and began chipping. Minutes passed. Sweat ran down his neck. His arms ached. Then crack. The wall gave way. A narrow gap appeared. Tyler shoved through, shoulders scraping rough edges. Ghost followed instantly. What they stepped into wasn't part of any blueprint Tyler had seen. A sealed-off room, 10 by 12 feet. Low ceiling. The air was thick, old, damp, but not stale. Someone had been here. The flashlight beam swept across the floor. A faded blanket, candy wrappers, a cracked handheld mirror, and in the far corner a single tiny shoe. Ghost moved carefully, sniffing every object with sharp precision. When he reached the shoe, he stopped, then lay beside it, head resting on the ground, tail completely still. Tyler stepped forward and picked it up gently. It was small, pink, the same brand Emma's mother had mentioned in the original missing persons file. His voice was barely a whisper. She was living here. The mirror caught his eye next. He lifted it slowly, angling it toward the light. On the back was something faint, scratched in with a nail or key. "I'm still here." The words nearly knocked the wind out of him. He sank onto the dirt floor, heart pounding. Who had done this? Who sealed this room? It wasn't just neglect. It was intentional. They didn't want her found. Not by police. Not by family. No one. Ghost pressed against his side. Tyler looked down. "I don't think she was just hiding," he said softly. "I think someone kept her here." He scanned the walls. No windows. No vent. Only a small gap near the ceiling. Just enough to slide in food. Maybe whisper through. Ghost sniffed toward it. Then Tyler noticed something else. A faded box of crayons. Red, green, blue, yellow. He opened the lid. Inside was a drawing. A sun. A house. 2 stick figures. One tall, one small. The same image from the crawlspace. She'd drawn it again. Tyler stared, blinking back heat behind his eyes. She tried to remember what the outside looked like. What home looked like. But she never drew more than 2 people. Not a mom. Not a dad. Just the tall figure. And her. Someone kept her down here. Tyler repeated, voice harder now. But they weren't hurting her. Ghost tilted his head. They gave her food. Blankets. Things to play with. Like they were pretending to care. The shoe. The candy. The second drawing. It didn't feel like torture. Felt like possession. Whoever it was, whoever sealed this place, they thought she belonged to them. Tyler stood slowly, heart pounding harder with each breath. This wasn't just a forgotten room. It was a prison made to look like comfort. And someone in the courthouse, someone with keys, with time, with access, had turned it into a secret home for a stolen child. Ghost barked once, sharply. Tyler spun around. Footsteps. Above. Someone was walking in the courtroom again. No doubt now. They were being watched. "We need to get out," Tyler whispered, grabbing the shoe and the drawing. "But we're not done." Tyler looked down at her. This girl who had been forgotten, hidden beneath the very place meant to protect her. And he made a silent vow. They'd believe her now. He'd make them. Emma's rescue was handled in whispers. No press. No headlines. No questions. Just a quiet ambulance ride in the dead of night. Straight to the hospital. No sirens. No uniforms. Tyler stayed with her until the doctors took her in. She clung to Ghost's fur like it was life itself, only letting go when she finally drifted into sleep. For in her arm, jacket still wrapped around her shoulders. She was safe now, but Tyler wasn't. Every second he spent sitting in that white hallway, he knew something bigger was unraveling. Emma hadn't just escaped a basement. She'd escaped a system, and she wasn't the only one. 2 days later, Tyler went back to the evidence vault, this time with a search warrant. Ghost followed close, tail stiff, eyes sharp. Tyler knew what he was looking for, even if he didn't want to find it. He returned to the same shelf where he'd found Mather's robe. Behind the box of files, hidden deep in a cracked plastic bin labeled Property, Judge M, was something else. A smaller box, unmarked, locked. He pried it open. Inside, neatly stacked rows of micro SD cards. Dozens, each labeled with dates. Years spanning from 2017 to just last fall. Tyler's stomach turned. He grabbed a laptop from the station, slid the first card in, and hit play. It was Courtroom 3B. Angle low, under the judge's bench. A hidden camera. The footage was grainy but clear enough. A child sat on the witness stand. Alone. Legs dangling. Eyes puffy. There was no attorney. No jury. Just Judge Mather's voice. Asking questions. Leading them. Controlling everything. Tyler slammed the laptop shut, breath stolen from his lungs. He looked down. Ghost was growling loud and deep. His hackles raised, eyes locked on the screen. Then, Ghost threw back his head and howled. Long low, grief-filled. Tyler sat frozen. He reached for the next card. And the next. Dozens of files. Dozens of children. All scared. All alone. All inside Courtroom 3B. This hadn't been a one-time thing. It was a pattern. Emma's file hadn't gone missing. It had been erased, buried, and Mathers had filmed everything. Tyler stood up so fast the chair clattered across the floor. He couldn't breathe. "Those kids," he whispered. He didn't just hide them. Ghost pressed against his leg, as if anchoring him. Tyler clenched his fists. He used them. He packed the SD cards in an evidence bag, heart pounding. Every step he took back toward his cruiser felt heavier. He didn't go to the precinct. Not yet. He needed someone he could trust. Only one name came to mind, Detective Laura Muniz. Internal Affairs. She'd been on the force 15 years and once told Tyler, "If you ever find rot in this building, bring it to me. I'll torch it." He dialed. She answered on the second ring. "Muniz. It's Knox. I've got something big." "How big?" "Judge Mathers. Sealed cases. Video proof." A pause. Then, "Bring it. Now." He didn't hesitate. Ghost rode shotgun, eyes fixed out the window. When they arrived, Muniz met them in the basement lot. No greetings. No questions. Just eyes sharp as glass. Tyler handed her the evidence bag. Her hands trembled. One look at the screen, and her face drained of color. "Jesus Christ." She looked at Tyler. "This is real." Tyler nodded. "All of it." Her voice dropped. "Do you have any idea how deep this goes?" Tyler didn't blink. "That's why I came to you." Muniz locked the evidence in a steel briefcase. "This never happened," she said. "Not yet. I need 24 hours to start peeling this back. But if this blows open the way I think it will." Tyler finished her sentence. "Everything changes." She nodded once. "Go home. Stay quiet. And keep that girl protected." Tyler didn't argue. But as he walked back to his cruiser, Ghost trotting beside him, he glanced up at the courthouse one last time. And he knew. The building they all trusted, the one meant to bring justice, had been hiding something rotten. And now, justice was finally coming for it. They told him not to do it. They warned him. Quietly, politely, even with a hint of pity. "Let the department handle it," they said. "We'll take it through the right channels." But Tyler had already seen what the right channels had done. Nothing. So he clicked upload. By dawn, the footage was everywhere. Clips from the SD cards. Ghost barking as the screen flickered. Emma's whisper. "He said no one would hear me." People heard her now. The town exploded overnight. Protesters flooded the courthouse steps by midday. Parents, teachers, survivors holding hand-painted signs. "Listen to the children. How many Emmas? Truth under the bench." Media vans swarmed the street. Helicopters circled overhead. Tyler watched from the top of the courthouse parking deck, Ghost at his side. The crowd below chanted his name. He didn't smile. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired. Then his phone rang. Internal Affairs. They didn't waste time. "Effective immediately. You are suspended pending investigation," said the voice flatly. Tyler stayed quiet. "You leaked classified evidence. You disobeyed orders. You undermined an active inquiry." "I exposed a predator," Tyler cut in. Silence. "You went too far," the voice said coldly. "We'll be in touch." Click. Tyler put the phone in his pocket. Ghost pressed his nose against Tyler's hand, sensing the storm behind his silence. "I don't regret it," Tyler murmured. He looked down at the crowd. A reporter shoved through the barrier, pointing up at him. Cameras turned. Phones lifted. They had found him. Minutes later, Tyler stood before a mic, Ghost sitting beside him. A sea of questions came at once. Why now? Was Emma the only one? Do you believe more are involved? He raised a hand. The noise stopped. "I'm not supposed to speak right now," he said calmly. "They say I broke protocol, that I leaked sensitive material, that I crossed a line." He looked down at Ghost, then back at the crowd. "You're damn right I crossed it." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "I crossed it because a 10-year-old girl was screaming underground, and no one listened. I crossed it because the man in the robe, the one we trusted, was the one hiding the horror. He paused. Ghost knew something no one else wanted to see. The reporters leaned in. Microphones stretched forward. Tyler continued. He stood at that courtroom door for nights. He refused to leave. He heard something in the silence, and he led me straight to her. Ghost let out a small huff, tail flicking once. Tyler crouched beside him, hand on his back. This dog found the truth when the rest of us looked away. Another wave of cameras clicked. One reporter asked, "Where is Judge Mathers now?" Tyler stood. Gone. Disappeared the night before the leak. But a manhunt is underway. And we will find him. He stepped back from the mic. That was all he had to say. Back in the apartment that night, the world felt heavier. He was off duty. No badge. No clearance. But Ghost curled beside him like nothing had changed. Only everything had. The phone rang again. This time, it wasn't the department. It was Emma's doctor. "She's awake," the voice said. "She's asking for you." Tyler swallowed hard. "I'm coming." As he stood, Ghost jumped up too. Because even without the badge, without the uniform, their job wasn't over. Not until every voice buried beneath Courtroom 3B was finally heard. The interview was supposed to be short. Just a few quiet minutes. No press. No courtroom. Just a small hospital room. One camera. One detective. One little girl. Emma sat curled in a blanket 2 sizes too big, her feet barely touching the floor, and 4 hung beside her. But her voice, though soft, didn't shake. Across from her, the camera rolled. Ghost sat beside her chair, tail gently brushing the floor, eyes locked on her like a guardian made of silence. "Do you remember anything from that time?" the interviewer asked. Emma nodded. "The dark. The noises. The metal walls." A pause. Then, "But I remember the dog. He was the first thing that didn't hurt me." Ghost's ears perked up. His tail wagged once, slow, like he understood every word. Emma reached down and stroked his head. "He didn't bark at me. He laid down and waited. He knew I was scared." The room held its breath. The interviewer leaned forward. "Do you remember who brought you there?" Emma's eyes drifted to the far corner of the room, then back. "Yes," she whispered. She reached into her blanket and pulled out a worn crayon drawing, the same one Tyler had found underground. "That's him," she said, pointing to the tall figure. "He said he was helping me. He gave me crackers. He told me I had to stay quiet, or more kids would get hurt." She didn't cry. She didn't even blink. His name was Judge Mathers. Behind the glass, Tyler closed his eyes. The weight of it all finally hit. This wasn't just one child. Emma kept going. Sometimes he wasn't alone. He let other people come in. One had a badge. One brought me toys. They all told me no one would believe me. "Do you remember their names?" the interviewer asked gently. She nodded. And then she named them, one by one. A retired bailiff. A courthouse janitor. A family lawyer. All trusted. All silent. All part of it. Ghost let out a low breath, like an exhale after holding something too long. Emma leaned her head against his side. "I didn't think anyone would find me," she whispered. "But he did. Ghost did." The interview ended. The camera stopped, but the truth couldn't be turned off. Tyler stood by the door, fists clenched, eyes wet. Muniz met him in the hallway, her voice low and steady. "We have enough. The DA's office is moving forward. Arrests start tonight." Tyler nodded. "And Mathers?" "Still missing." But Tyler wasn't surprised. Men like Mathers didn't run because they were afraid. They ran because they thought they could, that no one would chase them, that their secrets would stay sealed. But now Emma had spoken, and the silence was broken. The footage, the SD cards, the names. It wasn't just a crime. It was a ring, a network buried beneath courtrooms and signatures, a cover-up wrapped in robes and ruled confidential. And now it was unraveling. That night, the courthouse stayed dark, its windows boarded, locks changed. The town lit candles on the steps, one for every sealed file, for every unheard voice. Ghost walked between the rows of light like he was counting them, remembering them. Beside him, Tyler whispered, They hear you now, partner. The wind shifted. Somewhere in the distance, sirens began to rise. Not for Tyler. Not for Ghost. For the ones who thought the bench would protect them. But this time, the courtroom was listening to someone else. A little girl. And the dog who never stopped looking. It wasn't a flashy ceremony. No fireworks. No parade. Just folding chairs in front of City Hall. A small podium. And the faint hum of cameras behind a line of yellow tape. But to Tyler, it was enough. He stood in uniform, shoulders back, eyes on the crowd. A few reporters. Some officers. Locals who had followed every update like it was oxygen. And Emma, dressed in soft blue, her hair brushed neatly for the first time in a long time. She stood beside Ghost, one hand on his back like she belonged there. Because she did. The mayor stepped up first, voice formal but cracking at the edges. Today we recognize Officer Tyler Knox for his courage and his refusal to stay silent. Applause rose. Tyler gave a tight nod. Then the mayor smiled, just a little. But today's real hero has 4 legs. Laughter broke through the emotion. Gentle, healing. Ghost perked up. The crowd leaned forward as the mayor continued. Ghost did what no officer, judge, or lawyer could. He listened. He followed his heart. And because of that, one little girl was found, and dozens of voices will finally be heard. Emma stepped forward. She didn't look at the cameras. She didn't speak into a mic. She knelt beside Ghost, reached into her pocket, and pulled out something small. Her bracelet. The same one Tyler had found in the crawlspace. Cleaned now, polished, engraved with her name. She fastened it to Ghost's collar, hands shaking just a little. "You never gave up on me," she whispered. The crowd fell silent. A woman sobbed softly. A man took off his cap and wiped his eyes. Ghost tilted his head, then slowly leaned in and licked her cheek. Emma closed her eyes and smiled. Tyler felt something swell in his chest. Not pride. Not relief. Closure. Real and rare. He stepped up to the podium, cleared his throat. "I don't have much to say," he began, voice low. "We all do this job hoping we'll make a difference. Most days, we don't know if we have." He looked at Emma, then at Ghost. "But sometimes, if we listen close enough, someone finds their way back." He paused. Ghost did that. He heard what no one else would. Another round of applause rose, louder this time. A chant even started, "Ghost! Ghost! Ghost!" The dog tilted his ears but didn't react. Just sat there like he knew the attention wasn't why he did it. Tyler stepped back. The ceremony wrapped up. Reporters crowded Emma, asking soft questions. She answered only one. "Do you trust people again?" She looked down at Ghost. "I trust him." That was enough. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the courthouse behind them, Tyler looked at the building one last time. It used to stand for law. Now it stood for something else. Truth. Ghost brushed against his leg, tail flicking. "Ready to go home?" Tyler asked. Ghost gave one small woof. Beside them, Emma reached for Tyler's hand. And just like that, 3 survivors walked into the fading light. Together. Courtroom 3B never reopened. The door stayed locked. The lights stayed off. No trials. No arguments. Just silence. But not the kind that hides secrets. The kind that remembers. A week after the final arrests, a crew arrived to gut the room. They removed the bench, tore up the carpet, even scraped the walls clean. But they left one thing behind. Beneath the judge's bench, bolted into the concrete, was a brass plaque. Simple, quiet, heavy, for the children who were never heard. And just beneath it, pressed gently into a small circle of preserved concrete, Ghost's paw print. Visitors still walk in sometimes. Survivors, parents, officers. They don't speak. They just stand there and feel. Because that courtroom, once used to silence the smallest voices, is now a monument to them. The ones who waited in the dark. Tyler stood there one last time, hand resting on Ghost's back. "They'll never use this room again," he whispered. Ghost stared ahead, still and calm, like he understood. Outside, a van waited. Their lives had changed. Tyler had turned in his badge 2 months after the trial. Not out of shame, but purpose. He and Ghost now travel from city to city, visiting departments, helping train the next generation of K-9 units. Not just for drugs, not just for tracking, but for something else. For instinct, for truth. Trust the dog, Tyler tells every new handler, even when it doesn't make sense, especially then. And when the rookies ask about the story, he only shares it once. No dramatics, just the facts. And one line he always ends with, Ghost didn't find a missing girl. He found the one everyone chose to forget. As for Emma, she lives with a new foster family now, one that holds her gently, listens more than they speak, gives her time. She's healing. Slowly. She still flinches at night sounds, still double-checks locked doors. But she smiles now. She eats breakfast without looking over her shoulder. And once a month, always the same day, she writes a letter. Not to Tyler, not to the mayor, not to a judge, to Ghost. She writes them on bright-colored paper, sometimes with doodles, sometimes just a single sentence. You're my brave boy. I'm not scared this week. I made a friend at school. Thank you for hearing me. Tyler reads them aloud before folding them and placing them in a wooden box marked Ghost's mail. Every time, Ghost listens. Every time, his ears perk just a little. And every time, when Tyler finishes, Ghost walks over, curls beside the box, and rests his head on it, as if guarding the words, as if they matter, because they do. Back in the courthouse, the plaque still shines. Visitors kneel and trace the paw print with their fingers. Some cry, some just stare, but none leave the same. Because now, when people speak of Courtroom 3B, they don't talk about the crimes. They talk about the dog who heard what others ignored. The dog who refused to walk away. The dog who helped a little girl find her voice by listening in a way no human ever had. And that changed everything. And maybe, if we learn to listen like Ghost did, the next child won't have to wait so long to be found. If this story moved you, share it, because every voice deserves to be heard.